Well, federal police are swarming Portland, and Senator Ron Wyden is having none of it. Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. We have with us, and we're very pleased to have him back on the program, Senator Ron Wyden, my senator, one of my two senators. Wyden, wyden.senate.gov is the website. His Twitter handle, of course, at Ron Wyden. Senator, welcome back to the program, and thanks so much. We had federal police here in Portland, and they shot a kid over the weekend and wounded him quite badly in a way that would have been illegal for the city. The mayor, Mayor Wheeler, is pretty flipped out about this. What's going on?
Well, it seems to me that peaceful protests, and we've seen this over time, are what's needed to keep up the pressure for real change, particularly rooting out systemic racism. And what we don't need is Donald Trump parachuting federal law enforcement into U.S. cities as if they're enemy strongholds requiring occupying armies to suppress. So that's what the issue is here, and I'll just give you my kind of bottom line, is Donald Trump is always talking about how he loves law and order, yet it seems that every instinct in him drives him to target lawful, peaceful protests, and he tries to inflame those debates into disorder.
Yeah, he said yesterday, quote, Portland was totally out of control, and we went in, and I guess we have many people right now in jail. We very much quelled it. If it starts again, we'll quell it very easily. It's not hard if you know what you're doing. Just shoot some people in the face?
Look, we're going to get the facts on what happened, but this isn't the first time we've seen the danger of Trump's tactics. I mean, last month in Washington, he deployed federal law enforcement as an occupying army against peaceful protesters so he could saunter over to a church for a bizarre photo op. And I have been leading the congressional Democrats to get the answers to that a few days after it happened. On the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, we have authority over the Interior Department. I said I wanted answers, and we're going to insist on them. The Government Accountability Office is looking at it now.
Meanwhile, Mitch McConnell is looks like he's getting prepared. He's preparing to play this game that he's been playing with Democrats for years, where really critical legislation, he dances it right up to the last minute. I mean, the Senate is not coming back into session until 5 days before the enhanced unemployment benefits for 30 million Americans runs out. That's 11 days from now they run out. And McConnell is saying that 600 a week was a mistake. You've got the White House saying that's too much money. You've got Steve Mnuchin saying that we want to cut it back. What's going on? What can Americans? 30 million unemployed people are literally depending on this stuff.
Yeah, and we're not going to let Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump say to all those hurting workers who are trying to make rent and pay for groceries that they can go pound sand while he gives out goodies to his friends. I'm the guy who negotiated that $600 extra per week, each week through July 31st with Steve Mnuchin. Negotiations took place in the Senate Finance Room, and the reason we came up with the formula is Secretary of Labor Scalia, I'm sure your listeners remember that name, was completely uncooperative. He wouldn't work with us to come up with a basic replacement system. As we know, the states, including Oregon, have had a lot of challenges because they're using Bronze Age technology. But I'll tell you, we are not going to come out of these negotiations. And the ranking Democrat on the Finance Committee, having negotiated that package, Mitch McConnell is not going to be able to tell all those workers from sea to shining sea, he's not going to be able to tell them go pound sand and then give out goodies to his friends.
Yeah, well, I hope you are right. I really do. And I tip my hat to you for holding strong on this. 40%, we have a record 5.4 million people who have lost their health coverage. And this is a study that wrapped up at the end of May. So we don't have the statistics yet for June, and we are in July. But this was released by Families USA today, this report. And it's a 40% higher loss than in the 2008-2009 recession, and in which case 3.9 million adults lost insurance. So 5.4 million. Presumably, it's actually much higher than that now because we're 5 weeks down the road from this report. or from the compilation of this data. Is it time for major structural reform in the way that we're delivering not just health care, but right across the board, America's social safety net? It seems like other countries do this so efficiently.
Absolutely. And let me give you a couple of examples with respect to unemployment benefits. After July 31st, what I have proposed is that future benefits be tied to economic conditions on the ground. It's called a stabilizer. And what you do with that is you ensure, for example, that the far right, somebody like Mitch McConnell, can't hold everybody hostage every few months. And it really should respond to what Republicans say they're for. I mean, it's tied to marketplace conditions. When you have unemployment that's over 11%, you bet there ought to be another $600 a week. When the unemployment rate tapers down, then the benefit tapers down. So we've got to reinvent the safety net, and also I think there's a new approach that is going to start modernizing the employer-based health care system. I started this a number of years ago. I said, look, it made sense for the 1940s when we had wage and price controls, but we're going to need alternatives. We're going to need a more flexible kind of approach, and I'm on the Emergency Health Care Guarantee Act right now to cover people's out-of-pocket because they're getting hit so hard now that they've lost their job and they've lost their health care coverage with their employer.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Israel, we have just about a minute and a half, by the way, before we're going to hit a hard break. Israel was down to the point where they had no detectable cases, or very few, over a several-week period. And so Netanyahu said, OK, we're going to reopen our schools. 2 weeks later, an explosion. Now the country's back in lockdown. 47% of the total cases now that they've been able to identify came out of the schools. And we're going to reopen our schools?
Well, Betsy DeVos, of course, is just looking to please Trump. I mean, we've always understood that. But I'll tell you, I think as we look out across the country, what we're seeing is teachers, particularly a number of them who are older, susceptible to the virus, say, I'm worried about my students, in addition to people who are part of the faculty or part of the teaching group. And so the question is Donald Trump ever going to think about something beyond his immediate interest on that particular day? Because this kind of narcissism really costs people's lives, and it's going to cost students and families and teachers dearly if he insists everybody goes back to school before it's safe.
DeVos over the weekend on the TV shows was fairly clear that she has no plan. It was basically the same thing Trump is saying: do whatever your local community thinks is best. Is Congress going to create a plan?
Well, number one, what the Trump people are proposing with respect to the schools simply isn't legal. They cannot just say, we're going to confiscate the funds, or we're not going to let them spend them that way, and we're going to go looking for some ideological kind of trophy about privatizing education. Look, we all understand that we want society in Oregon and everywhere else to be as open as possible, consistent with safety. And Donald Trump is always rejecting the public health guidelines. It's just a challenge to get him even to wear a mask when he goes to see vets. And so what I'm saying is, you bet, we're going to agree as Democrats to focus on needs, but we're also going to focus on safety.